Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Wise Decision Maker Show, where we help you make the wisest and most profitable decisions. My name is Dr. Gleb Tsipursky. I'm the CEO of Disaster Avoidance Experts, the future of work consultancy that sponsors the Wise Decision Maker Show. And today, my guest is Melinda Ramos. Melinda, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and where you work?
Absolutely. It's great to be here. Thank you so much, Dr. Gleb. Again, my name is Melinda Ramos. My pronouns are she, her. I am the SVP of People, Partnerships, and Experience at Bounteous, and we are a global digital consulting organization.
Excellent. And you have a certain perspective about hybrid work, which I'd like to really learn more about. Tell me about your perspective.
I think that what we've seen over the last few years is that we can really accomplish and do so much in a virtual and a hybrid environment. And we've seen so many changes in the way that we work and the way that we operate. And I think there's only more change to come. And I'm absolutely supportive of it. And I want to encourage it. And so that is part of what I do here at Bounteous.
Excellent. Now, one of the big challenges with a hybrid environment is mentoring, onboarding, getting junior staff, helping them figure out the company. Can you tell me about how you solve that problem? Because we see a lot of companies saying, well, we need to go back to the office because our junior staff are just falling more and more behind. Salesforce said that, Facebook said that. What are you finding? What are you doing right that these companies are not?
Yeah, I think what we're doing right is that we realized a long time ago that engagement doesn't have to happen in the same physical space, and that our touch points are frequent with our team members, particularly our junior team members, because we know that they're likely new to the workforce, and standard procedures in business are not necessarily something that is super familiar to them. So the more we can touch point with them, the more we can connect with them. We absolutely think it's necessary. And that starts from the point in which we start to engage them in the conversation around what type of work they'll be doing for the company. Once they've come on board, our orientation and our onboarding process is very, I'll call it generous. It involves discussions with many different leaders throughout the organization in different practices. And what we refer to as practices is what other companies refer to as departments. So they have access to leaders across the organization. We're a matrixed organization, so everyone has an opportunity to work with a bunch of different stakeholders, as well as people with varying degrees of expertise and experience. And so that's happening from the point that they start throughout their entire career. We know very early on if this type of environment is going to work for a newer team member. We can see in their motivation, we can see it in their the level of energy that they're putting forth in the work, how they're meeting their deadlines. And, if there is an opportunity for us to potentially offer them additional resources, such as counseling and or mentorship, we can do that to help support whatever their needs are.
That's interesting. So you're looking at these folks, they're coming in, and they're in this environment where they have to be, it sounds like, somewhat proactive in order to succeed. And I think this is one of the challenges. I've helped 25 companies figure out, 25 by now, figure out their hybrid work strategy, remote work strategy. And we definitely see that people who enter the company, who are entering in the hybrid modality or remote modality, do somewhat struggle. And something that I've done in all the companies that I've worked with is setting up robust mentoring program. So it sounds like you have kind of a reactive mentoring program where it's people who need help get mentoring. The companies that I work with, we set up a mentoring program from the beginning for like the 0 to 6 year period, because we see that people struggle compared to being office-centric, making connections. You have matrixed organization. People have struggled making connections across the organization. They struggle getting that on-the-job training, that casual mentoring around the office. So having structured mentoring sessions, one-on-one mentoring, and also group mentoring, where there's a peer cohort learning effect. So there's a peer, they get together with other junior folks, and there's a senior mentor who mentors a group. That's very helpful because they also teach each other. So setting up both one-on-one relationships and peer mentoring relationships, I've seen those be very helpful structurally. So Absolutely. It sounds like that's not something you've seen except in reactively. Tell me a little bit more about that, what your perspective is.
Yeah, I would actually contradict that statement. What I'm actually saying, yeah, is that when we identify folks who are struggling in this environment, we actually can put forth more resources toward them. But we already have in place mentoring and a buddy system so from day one, you are assigned a career coach. So your manager is your career coach. The reason that we call them career coaches is that we believe that the traditional manager role is so much more to us than your traditional other companies. And then we also assign a buddy to our team members at the very beginning. So they actually have 2 points of contact, as well as a plethora of other folks that they can reach out to. And they actually have both someone who is helping them to onboard to the company, the systems, the people, the programs, but also somebody that they can rely on to say, hey, I'm not sure if this environment is the right one for me. Can you help me with tricks and tools and tips that potentially might, rework how I'm thinking about this? And so we've actually set that up already. And in the cases where we've identified situations or individuals who maybe they're not quite getting what they need from the groups that we've already assigned to them, we can look at those a bit more closely and maybe try a slightly different approach, because we do very much believe that each individual is going to have their own individual needs. We've put structures in place to support everyone, but everyone needs something a little more, a little less. So I'm fully on board with that sort of system. And we are, a company as a whole on board with that. So I love what you said, and we're doing something very, very similar.
Wonderful. Yeah, so that wasn't clear from your initial statement, so I'm glad I dug deeper into that so that we can get that out. I think that's really important for viewers to understand that mentoring is a core component of what you already do, and then you add additional mentoring if someone has struggles and they need more help. Okay, good. Very good to understand that. Now, I want to move to another component of hybrid work that is a little bit challenging, which is the proximity bias inclusivity element. So folks, there's been extensive research that people who spend more time remotely tend to be less paid attention to. And there's a proximity bias for those who spend more time close by. And of course, that is harmful for inclusivity and diversity. So what are you doing to address those inclusivity elements and prevent the proximity bias from undermining your hybrid model?
Absolutely. So what's really interesting about Bounteous is that we started off in a virtual hybrid environment many, 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 many years ago. That was the founding of this business. So we've been very much accustomed to operating in a virtual environment. And it was really not very long ago, I would say probably 5-ish, maybe 6-ish years ago, where we started really changing the direction and investing more in what we call collaboration centers. And those are our office environments. And they operate in a bunch of major cities around the United States, Canada, as well as India and some parts of Latin America. Now, when the pandemic began, we, of course, were immediately pivoting to a holistically virtual environment.
Sure.
But we didn't have a terribly strong foundation in that in-person environment anyway. It was still relatively early on. Now, we have acquired companies over the years that have had physical plants in certain locations. So we had to do some work to integrate those folks into a virtual environment. And to your point, yes, if you've been sitting in an office environment for 5 years with all of your coworkers, there is a natural sort of camaraderie, a natural culture building that occurs. And then breaking that up again kind of throws folks into a bit of a tailspin, if you will. But what we do really, really well here is we have dedicated time and energy and resources to virtual workshops that are focused on building culture, understanding nuances in terms of diversity, equity, inclusion, cultural understanding in terms of working with folks outside of North America. So we've put a lot of time and energy into hosting events virtually and in person that allow for that connectivity, that human connectivity that occurs. The interesting thing about Bounteous is that our teams are highly distributed. So even in the cities where we have collaboration centers and we have, let's say, 150 employees within 5 miles of that office, that 150 employees are distributed amongst a bunch of different clients. So they're not necessarily working on the same types of projects and with the same teams. So for us, it's really, really important that when we have folks get together in an in-person environment, that it is about really meaningful touch points with the people that you work most closely with. And so that's the kind of thing that we promote, and that's the kind of thing that that's the kind of structure that we've put in place in this type of environment. And we don't anticipate having really ever going back to a full in-person environment. I don't think it's feasible with the way that our teams are distributed.
Sure. Yeah, it sounds like it. So you started, so it sounds like the difference between some other organizations that are choosing to not go that route is that you started in a virtual environment, and you already have that skill set of culture building in that virtual environment. Excellent.
Absolutely. We have to, right? We have to have some sort of system in place that enforces and reinforces and regenerates to some degree our culture, particularly as we grow and we grow through acquisition and we bring in all this new talent.
Excellent. Now, one of the things that I've been working with my clients on, I'm curious about your perspective, is the impact of AI on remote work and hybrid work. And I'm seeing generative AI especially allow more coordination and communication and flexibility, and the things that previously people did in the office, which were easier done in the office. This coordination, this communication, this flexibility of immediate touch points is now facilitated more easily by generative AI and other forms of AI. And so it seems that remote work is going to get easier over time rather than harder. And so I'm curious what as we finish up and thinking about the future, what you're thinking about the future of remote work, hybrid work, and Bounteous. You said you're not going back, but how do you think these new tools, generative AI and other tools, are going to impact your ability to work remotely, both within the team and with your clients?
Yeah, I think there are a lot of opportunities with AI in terms of workflows and better collaboration. I absolutely think that we're already using AI to some degree with internally and of course with our clients. I think that there's a real opportunity there to use it to our benefit, while also keeping in mind that human connectivity will never cease to be something that is incredibly important to us. We want to reinforce that opportunity to connect with your colleagues in a very meaningful way. What I think it also allows us to do is, and this really particularly as it relates to our global workforce, is the fact that we can operate 24 hours a day and support our clients and support our partners 24 hours a day. And AI only serves to make that easier for us, which I think will allow us to continue in this sort of virtual/hybrid environment. It remains to be seen. I think that we're still seeing what the possibilities are, but I certainly have lots of hope that we'll continue to use it to our advantage and use those opportunities for that in-person engagement as much as we have been and more.
Excellent. Well, thank you for sharing your expertise, Melinda. This was very helpful. I really appreciate your time.
Yeah, thank you so much. I really appreciate you too.
Thank you to the audience. We appreciate you for checking out another episode of the Wise Decision Maker Show. Please make sure to subscribe wherever you checked out the show and leave a review. It helps others discover the show and helps us improve the show. All right, everyone. I look forward to seeing you in the next episode of the Wise Decision Maker Show. In the meantime, the wisest and most profitable decisions to you, my friends.